Is that where it's at? Let's
See the
see.
clicker? Well, I've changed slides with the mouse.
Yeah, I can, let me get it to, where can we get it to full screen? Here we go.
This little one right here.
The what?
This little guy right here.
I can't see where you're. Go ahead.
That icon right there. One next to it. To the right. That one.
There you go.
Okay, so I'm going to be mainly highlighting the plant communities and habitat corridors of the superstitions, specifically within the Gold Canyon footprint. And my name is Bobby Lamoureux, Habitat Land and Evaluation Specialist for Game and Fish Region 6. Region 6 is pretty huge, but this area is incorporated into it. We go up to Payson, we go south down the Gila River Indian Community, and west out to Buckeye. So we cover quite a bit of land.
Go ahead.
So upland Sonoran Desert Scrub, this is the habitat that encompasses pretty much all of what is present within the Gold Canyon region. Dominated by Saguaro Bajadas, really coarse soils, pretty intermediate soils. You'll find a lot of ironwood, mesquite, as well as some undershrubbery. So the main vegetation you're going to see is brittlebush, ambrosia, creosote, jojoba constitutes pretty much the majority of the native ground cover throughout here. There's limited perennial grass species that you'll find. This is mainly due to the soil type. Many grasses prefer really early successional light sandy soils that they can get their roots into, and we just don't have that in the classic granitic soils here. They're also home to one of the most diverse plant communities in the United States. We have about over 1,000 species here, often touted as one of the most highly biodiverse communities. We don't often see that because half of them are nocturnal and come out at night. And then they're quite susceptible to annual and perennial invasive grass encroachment, forb encroachment. This is mainly due to the way that the deserts are set up. They have a lot of natural bare cover due to that granitic soil, but something that invasive species have in common is their incredible ability to inhabit any type of soil type, do it really fast, as well as their shallow, wide root systems. So with that being said, here's the most common ones that you're going to find in this region. Top left is the one that, let me get this guy in the waiting room, actually. I got you, guy.
Somebody taking care of it.
So top left here, we have fountain grass, and this is one I'm going to be spending a bit more time in the future. This is what you have present throughout Gold Canyon, actually, through my drive here. It's a perennial bunch grass, really hazardous wildfire concerns. In the middle, we have Russian thistle, also called tumbleweed. I'm sure you all see that rolling through. This is a summer annual you usually have to work with, but most likely won't be too common around here, maybe along the roadsides, because it prefers really sandy soil. Top right is the bane of my existence. This is salt cedar. This is a tree species that inhabits riparian areas, mainly in disturbed areas. I would say about 80% of my life currently is killing this plant, destroying it. You won't have to worry about that here. Bottom left is one of the two that you'll also have to worry about. This is buffalo grass. Traditionally from U of A, they accidentally released it during a science experiment, now throughout the entire state. This is why ASU is better. So also perennial bunch grass dries up during the winter time, creates a huge fire risk. This is actually what ended up burning the Tonto, about 1,000 acres throughout there. Those fires started from buffalo grass encroachment.
So Bobby, where'd you go to school?
I went to school at ASU, of course.
I'm really perceptive. I picked up on it. You're smart.
Bottom right, we have glow chamomile, which recently got its name changed to stinknet because people thought it was a tea. When you step on it, it releases turpentine type smell. So it's actually really smelly. I'm a weirdo and I like the smell, but also fire risk. You likely won't see it too much around the Gold Canyon region.
It's very.
Yeah.
Can you go back to that picture?
Yes, sir.
Talk about the one in the upper right that you.
Oh, yeah. So
Right, no, the one to the left of that, no, over to the right, over to the right, right there.
Yeah.
Now, is that the stuff that grows and then flies away as white flowers or stuff?
no, so this one does prolifically seed, but the biggest problem with this one and the reason why it gets its name is because it has an innate ability to suck up salt from the ground, and it actually rested inside of its leaves. So over time, it grows in these monocultures and actually starts to deposit the salt onto the top soil layer. So it's pulling salt deep from the soil system, depositing it on the top, and it creates an environment only suitable for itself. So that's why on the Gila River, you see this in probably 90% monocultures.
Until you're thinking of smoke bush trees, but
I'm not sure.
a really white fuzzy stuff.
Yeah, desert.
Might be desert broom.
Is that,
That's all.
should we eradicate that?
That's actually a native plant, and no, I wouldn't eradicate that. If it's desert broom, just because it rarely dries out, it doesn't pose a fire risk. If you're having issues with an allergen, that could be a different issue, but I haven't heard of it being an allergen issue.
It's in the pool.
It's in the pool, yeah, so annoying for homeowners. Now, one of the big topics is habitat fragmentation. So this refers to the process through which previously intact areas of habitat are divided into smaller disconnected areas through urbanization, recreational use, and other barriers. So why does this matter? It poses vehicle wildlife collisions. You're more likely to hit a deer or any crossing animal that's trying to jump between these habitat blocks. You can create a genetic bottleneck for species, and that's just a fancy term that means you're possibly causing a population to become susceptible. Maybe through inbreeding, they'll slowly start to process some less desirable genetic traits. And then increased invasive species encroachment. Invasive species have one thing in common: they love bare soil, they love churned up soil that they can easily get into. So first off, riparian areas are the most vulnerable to habitat fragmentation. This is just due to the natural process of water coming through, constantly flushing out early successional species, and it just creates a pretty consistent bare ground, which invasive species love. And it can also lead to isolated populations that begin to quickly colonize. So I took these photos from the beautiful Gold Canyon. Besides that, everything else is great. This is fountain grass here, and this kind of showcases what can happen from just one little small population. So these are all little parcels of fountain grass in here. This is one of these arrow riparian channels right off the side of the road. I noticed one fountain grass, and then from there I was like, okay, there's probably going to be more, and there unfortunately was. So you'll see it start to spread out actually into the river channel itself. So this is either a product of some personal landscaping or possibly public landscaping based on what plant palettes you all use. So this is why it's either important to make sure that you exclude all species that could cause this, or just giving the public opinion out on what species you should avoid. Because obviously you can't just ban a plant that's not actually federally listed.
How do you eradicate that?
This one you can just pull it by the root. It's pretty easy.
Our HOA just came out and said they're gonna have a campaign to, because it's invasive through our HOA.
Yeah, it's invasive
We're
everywhere.
gonna have a campaign to eliminate it. I want to talk to them.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. You can use a glyphosate-based product, so Roundup, but these are perennial bunch grasses, so you can just pull them up just fine. That's probably the best way, honestly. Risk of invasive species encroachment. Number one, wildfire. These bunch grasses have a something in common where they all dry up during periods of non-rain. They look dead, but they're actually alive and they'll resprout. So they'll be the first thing to burn and then the first thing to resprout. So often it increases the fire risk, but also will increase the actual amount of species present if nothing is done. Reduce forage and shelter for native species that haven't acclimated to this species over time. Reduce frequency of native plants. Long-term can change the soil characteristics. This is one of the salt cedar plots that I've been working on, and this shows just how salty the soil gets. So this used to be a salt cedar monoculture, and after letting the sun hit it for a bit, you can see the salt crust, which is that white powder that starts to form. Increased erosion in invasive dominant landscapes. This is mainly due to their shallow rooting systems. They rarely have deep rooting, except for this dang salt cedar. And increased cost of landowners dealing with removal, weed control, in case they want to know. Some mitigation efforts. ADOT does a really good job with this of creating native buffers along disturbed areas. You just a native seed mix off the side of the roadside. This is all brittle bush, does extremely well out here and also looks pretty beautiful. Avoid obstructing flood channels. One thing that I'll get to in the future is you guys have a lot of alluvial fan structures on the northern portion of your project area. Each one of those little channels is technically a riparian area, although they are riparian in nature. And native plant landscaping is something I'm huge about, especially it helps create less pockets of invasives occasionally. So just trying to spread the word about native plant landscaping, what works really well out here. And that's something that I could help out wherever necessary if you ever want any questions about that.
Where do you source your seeds for native plants? Do you collect them or is there producers?
The producer I usually go to is called Granite Seed. They're based out of I think Utah, but they have a place down here. Oftentimes I'll go out with hand and collect them myself too, but I know that's probably not realistic for this community. So wildlife corridors. These are known trails that are continually used by wildlife for transportation. They include ridge lines, canyons, riparian areas, cliffs, little belts of forest or grasslands or other landscape features. They're most effective when connected to large and unfragmented areas known as habitat blocks. And they include landscape, diffuse, and riparian movement areas. And so this little game trail, as we call it, is actually known as the wildlife corridor as well. First to our landscape and diffuse. Landscape are the wildlife linkages where animals move between different habitat blocks. So this includes any movement between a road, or if you're on a cliffside, there's a little game trail going onto a riparian area, that would be considered a landscape. Diffuse is where animals move within a habitat block. So instead of moving from habitat to habitat, they'll just stay in their little square and they won't move. Tortoises are notorious for this, and it's why there's such an issue when it comes to development, is because a tortoise won't simply just move down to an uninhabited area. It'll move about 5 feet and just stay within that area. And then we have the riparian movement areas. So they're wildlife linkages where animals move primarily to the riparian corridor. It's the most common one simply because it provides cover on the sides, but also an open space for them to move through. So this includes their riparian habitats such as ephemeral washes and alluvial fans. And this is what I mean by an alluvial fan. This really mountainous structure with multiple channels that come off. And these form off of mountains. Out here's the superstition. So as flood water starts coming down, it starts trenching in these little braided channels everywhere. And you guys have a ton of that out here. So why do these matter? Number one is it allows wildlife uninhibited movement to essential food and water sources, just keeping themselves alive. It allows for longer seasonal migratory movements, reducing that chance for a genetic bottleneck, allowing them to interbreed with different species of different populations. A big one for us is it reduces the human wildlife interaction. Funneling, making sure you have certain corridors across streets, whether that be overhead crossings, underhead crossings, can help avoid that. And then particularly important for big game species such as mountain lion, mule deer, bighorn sheep. This is an incredible depiction of one mountain lion's travel over 1 year. This is the Sierra Estrella mountain range, and this is out west of Buckeye area down south. So multiple times over the course of a year, we've been tracking this one, and it tracked between that area about 3 times.
How big is that area?
It's huge.
20 square miles, 50 square miles?
I'd say about 50 square miles. It's big, and especially this crossing. So they actually, it's pretty cool because we set up these artificial waters, and you can see that it's actually following the traces of these water sources too. So it's actually working.
Could you talk about water in the, and typically I'd expect all the animals would be around water. It's
Yeah.
gonna be there year round.
Absolutely.
And typically, where's the water gonna be found? I mean, there's not that many places where there's lakes or there's golf courses and things, but are you gonna discuss a little bit of that?
No, I'm not, but I can briefly. Usually that'll be in the upper mountain sections. As far as game and fish, we have installed some rainwater catchments in the superstitions. They're a little bit more rural areas, so they just collect water into a little pan, but oftentimes when they're searching for water, it's just random sources. They go to the riparian areas, and oftentimes you'll see this with burrows. I'm not so sure about the bigger game species, but they'll dig holes to actually get down to the groundwater sections. In the urban areas, that oftentimes comes to pools and other small, golf courses. That's you'll see a ton of wildlife, I'm sure, on the golf course out there.
Mhm.
Benefits to people. Biggest one is improved public safety motorists. You don't have to hit mule deer out here. Those are elk, but you'll definitely see some mule deer out here. It helps retain the natural vista aesthetic attributes of Arizona. I think you guys have done such a good job with the community out here. It looks beautiful as you're riding through it. It looks like an interconnected system. You have multiple understory culverts, so I think you've done a great job. Improve recreational opportunities such as hunting and hiking, keeping that open access so people can actually enjoy the desert. I have no idea what the top says. Riparian recommendation, that's what it is. So this is what Game and Fish tends to recommend when building in riparian areas. I've included a picture of the Catalina foothills out at Tucson because they're pretty much building in the exact same areas you guys. Alluvial fans off the site of a right off the side of a cascading mountain. You'll see where possible they're building on top of the ridge line, avoiding the inner channels here to keep it connected. They did a bad job right here, but that's okay. You can't always do it. But for the most part, when you're building a community, you can see that they definitely played into account and tried to avoid it wherever possible. We recommend a buffer of 100 feet to be maintained around the riparian areas. So that's right within the channel itself. Alterations to waterways should be minimized and avoided wherever possible. So that's dams, which won't be a problem out here, I'm sure. And limit fencing within riparian channels and create overpasses and crossings. So anytime you're crossing a dry wash, it's great to either have a culvert underneath or some sort of section where you can funnel. So specific areas of concern. Also, this map is out of date, so ignore it, just mainly for the project area. The low density and open space area. So the northern portion where most of that alluvial fan structure is located, where you're potentially planning some work. This area houses multiple ephemeral streams and known wildlife corridors, which is this bottom right map. Here this is based off of information from our multiple tag species. So this is showing the actual walkways of where these animals are hitting. You guys are located right in this extremely dense pocket here. And this is just because of the superstitions on the northern side, as well as the multiple channels bringing us out down south. And then keeping structures out of riparian channels whenever possible and retain access for recreation. So the northeastern area is actually heavily used by OHV. And we do have a few concerns when building in these areas just to keep them open. For our own sake, because it's a revenue source for the department, but also just to avoid any illegal activity. Oftentimes, when you close off the OHV, these people are just going to go off and find a new spot, either illegally, recreationally, or that. But try to funnel them to the already known areas. So keeping this area open for access to the multiple trailheads, the caves. And then there are, multiple caves present along the southern superstitions and bat colonies, which I'll get into a little bit more about some little options you can do for landscaping.
Yeah.
Now here's my tortoise, bro. We do have some specific concerns out in this area. We have done a ton of surveys, not in the Gold Canyon area, but down south towards the actual, the artillery impact area. We found an exceptionally dense population of tortoises and a similar habitat structure to what is present out here. Alluvial fans. So they love this type of structure, really easy to form burrows off to the side. They can dig right into the natural undercuts from the floods. So I talked to our tortoise specialist and he said they're certainly likely to be in the Gold Canyon area. Maybe at a little bit less density, but they're present. So tortoise do not follow corridors, but instead vastly forage within their habitat block. So simply, following the riparian recommendation, not building directly within the channels could help them. Just wanted to pinpoint just the one species concern. This is what you're most likely to encounter. Now, developments to aid wildlife. Number one big thing is underpasses for wildlife wherever you're crossing riparian areas. 2, native plant landscaping, pollinator gardens in public areas. So here we have one of our wonderful long-nosed leaf bats. So this is one of the 2 nectar feeding bats that we have. Not necessarily found here, but they have potential to be found here. And they feed strictly on white flower agave as well as saguaro. So something that could be included. They've done agave farms out in Mexico where they've been making sure that they don't remove it during crucial times for bats, and it's actually brought their population way back. So small little concerns like that. And then pollinator species for insects. I know you may not want a ton of bugs in your in the area, but this could actually help bring in those insect eating bats as well throughout the area. And then avoid all invasive species for personal landscaping. Again, you sound like you're doing
Bobby?
Yeah.
Just at dusk at night in the summertime, we get bats flying around the pools and coming in and getting water.
That's cool. Nice.
Where are they normally during the daytime?
They'll go to their caves during the daytime, and that's usually along that superstition along the northern area. They'll come all the way from there.
Really?
Yep. They're usually they'll hang out in colonies. They're hiding in either old mine shafts, old caves, and that's it. But yeah, they'll usually make the migration all the way from the superstitions down south.
And they're going after insects.
Those ones, yes, are going after insects. The most common ones you'll find, you have about 7 known species of bats within the Gold Canyon region, 5 of them being insect-eating bats, and then the 2 being the nectar pollinators. All right, that's it.
Another question for you.
Yes, sir.
Entrada del Oro out here has cleared a tremendous amount of acreage for the D.R. Horton future complex.
Okay.
Do you get involved in that, and does your organization have to sign off like planning and zoning does in the county for development to take place?
A lot of the times we do. I haven't actually had that one come across my table.
Well, they have certainly moved a lot of land, and it's
They
not
don't do it
pretty.
in a nice way. They flatten. They come in, they flatten everything. They don't care whether there's cacti or whatever that needs to be protected.
Are they private?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't, unfortunately, we don't provide comment for private organizations unless they reach out like yourself.
gotcha.
We legally have to do it for any sort of government entity, state as well as federal.
Why not the private?
I'm not sure. I just don't
I
think they
mean-
legally have to approach
If
us.
you drive down Ironwood and see that. What was that?
The Department of Agriculture inspects that and issues permits to remove plants. They're the ones, anything over 40 acres must have a State Department of Agriculture permit to move certain species of plants.
Okay, Roberto, you had something?
Yes, but wouldn't that be an opportunity for a group of residents to approach our county planning departments to alert them to that kind of concern? And wouldn't that be an opportunity for your agency to come in and provide that service to another public entity?
Absolutely. And that's something that myself and my boss, Kelly, I don't know if any of you have met her, but we're always ready to provide input, provide anything when asked. This is just something I wasn't aware of, but if we were approached, be more than happy to provide any information to make sure that they're doing it correctly.
And I propose that to emphasize that one of our GCCI interests is in getting more residents involved in going to the planning and zoning meetings.
Absolutely. I agree.
As you, go ahead.
You mentioned earlier on that there were several invasive species that you're trying to, I forget what the word was, you want to educate.
Eradicate.
This is sort of thing we have HOA and some natural areas that are out there.
Mhm.
And our policy is just let them go. But if that's not a great policy and there's things we should be doing to maintain that, it would be good to know what that is. So that we don't have all these, inadvertently watch things collapse.
Now, I'm not too familiar with an HOA. Would you be able to actually ban certain landscaping plants within here? Yeah. That's the big thing. Often people will be like, oh, there's just little sprouts coming up. They'll ignore it until it becomes a huge monoculture.
Can we just, this is a general question, we just ask GCCI to ask you guys officially to send that report to all of the HOAs in Gold Canyon?
I think so. I'll have to check with my boss, but I don't see an issue with that. It's public information, so.
As you observe the Gold Canyon area, what would you say our #1 challenge is and what should we do about it?
One challenge would be
As
just
far as any of the
all the invasives.
invasives, yeah.
Progress, 100%.
Okay.
That's really all I found during my time riding around. So I mean it when I say it's done a really good job out here. Yeah, you guys have done a good job with these concerns. I normally will drive around, I'll see like 5 different invasive species. Drive around my neighborhood, I just get annoyed. So it's great here. It really is. Fountain grass, yes, and that I bet you that's just from someone having that in their front yard, and then any sort of it produces so much seed, any wind event will take it down. That's all it is.
I think most of the local places where you can buy plants are actually not selling it anymore.
Oh, they don't?
They don't, like Home Depot or so, they don't sell it anymore because it's a known concern.
Yeah,
But there are old ones or people bring them from other states and it's very beautiful. If you've
It
seen
is.
fountain grass, it's a beautiful, very attractive plant. I was considering having them, then I read about it.
Let's put it down.
Yeah. When you
Together that list, which is a great idea. Could you also do photos of the particular plants? You know, because it's a good idea, you know, want to be able to identify visually.
Give me my card, you can mind that, then I can send you that species list if you wanted that.
Yeah, can we?
Give one today. Give one.
When we We'll do a recap of the meeting.
Yeah, great.
We'll do a recap of the meeting and have this information. Yes,
As an attachment.
Exactly. exactly.
Okay, great, yeah.
Bobby, can you talk a little bit about your revenue? We talked about off-road vehicles and, you know, I'm not familiar with how you're funded.
Oh, so yeah, the OHVs, they have to come to us to register every single OHV they have, so. In that regard, we're just stating that reducing OHV tracks could potentially reduce the amount of revenue that we're actually getting on our side.
Yeah, so that's government. So you're also funded obviously by the state, right? But
Correct, entirely. No, that's the state still. They'll come in for our own permits, and then we'll also get, we do UTV training courses. We also have some private areas where we require fees, but most of our money is coming from hunting and fishing license, which is also people hunt quite a bit in the northern side.
That same issue, OHVs, in the past month, we from GCCI at a Board of Supervisors meeting that approved funding for the Sheriff's Department to purchase off-highway vehicles themselves to patrol the areas.
Nice.
I personally requested that they produce a map of designated OHV trails so that our communities will know to be observant of OHVs going off of the designated trails.
Nice. Another good idea.
But what happens then? You see,
What happens is that we,
Support it.
as residents, can demand enforcement.
well, that brings me up to one of the subjects of the day, the opening of the regional park. And the demise of so much land in the last year and a half of people going down Peralta Trail, just if they can get off the road with their motorhome or their pickup truck, they're
Yeah, they'll do it.
just going everywhere and there's no control at all. And apparently,
They're gonna be putting up fencing. The county is gonna be putting up fencing along Peralta Trail.
Who
Relatively
has the authority to oversee things like that? The county?
That's state land.
That's a good.
Right, so would it be, so like you were talking about enforcement? Who or what organization, would it be county, would it be state, I mean, who pragmatically would oversee and enforce?
I believe the county has jurisdiction.
And again, that's an issue that we, GCCI, have highlighted for the Board of Supervisors.
Okay.
Where we have not only in this last month, like I said, emphasized the need for enforcement of the OHV designated areas comparable to what we did further east at Queen Valley, where there were all OHVs that were jeopardizing the integrity of Whitlow Dam and Earthling Dam. That is the responsibility directly placed with the Sheriff's Department.
Okay.
Any other questions of our guest speaker?
I snuck down.
I asked.
I have one. Or two. I know it's not your field.
Mhm.
What animal is the most destructive and what are the rules and regulations on javelinas?
Well, you can't just kill them. What we do have, because they're protected, it's a hunting game animal, so reducing that population will potentially reduce our tags for the game and for the game managing organization. We do have an urban wildlife specialist that can move any problematic javelinas, but that doesn't mean if javelina's sniffing around the backyard that he'll come out. It's more so an aggressive javelina that's starting to interfere with the public, but.
They have gone apparently to ASU because they learned how to tip over the garbage cans on the night before the garbage is picked up.
That sounds fun to me. That'd be fun to see.
Animals around here, you know? So the pack rat issue.
But
That's-
that stings.
Be mad at them because they're so ingenious.
They are.
But very destructive.
If you need a class on it, I got 55 of them last year.
Okay, we'll talk.
The javelina issue. I've found an effective way because they come and they root. They have the preferred routes that they go after.
Especially cactus.
And what I've done, and it's been very effective, is I've gotten ocotillo branches and place them around the root of the plant, and they stay away from that.
That's cool. But if you would want, I can give you the name of our contact info of our urban wildlife specialist. He probably has better recommendations on what you can do with them.
If you could send all that information to Isabelle.
Yeah,
Yeah, it would be great
For
to
sure.
kind of link on our website to some of these resources because there's
what-
an interest.
What we'll do with this meeting, when we send out a meeting update from this meeting, minutes of the meeting per se, and we'll have all that contact information within that document. So for future reference. Okay, any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for.
Thank you, Bobby, again. And this is the kind of detailed knowledge that we should have, you know, in order to become more resilient to the development plans that we're facing here in our area. So we need a knowledgeable populace to be able to respond to this. Okay, and this is where I come in.
Okay.
Right? And Bobby, if you want to leave, you did a great job here, so we don't want to keep you hostage here, right? But
I'll stay. I have about till what, 10:30? What time?
it's already 10, not 10:30. Okay, great.
I'm good. I'll stick around.
Okay, so next on the agenda is get to meet the Director of Conservation, everybody. That's me, Isabelle Petersen. Some people, first thing that they do when they meet me is ask, where's your accent from? So I'm anticipating this. Okay, I'm from Germany, everyone. So I was born and grew up in Germany, came here 30 years ago. So I'm a resident of Arizona for 30 years. I went to ASU. I got my degree there. It's in interdisciplinary humanities. Nobody knows what that is. I'm not gonna explain, doesn't matter. It's not in conservation. Okay, so what I did get through my degree is pretty good research skills, and those come in handy in my position here right now. Okay, I still work at ASU, teach classes there, the typical liberal arts stuff. And let's see, I moved to Gold Canyon with my husband about 2 years ago. So I'm a relative newcomer. But I've known the area for about 30 years, okay, because I used to go hiking here at Peralta Canyon. And I remember the development going up Peralta Trail, like along Peralta Road. And I was thinking at the time, that is really too bad. Now I live there, okay, so and I am fully aware of the irony of this, you know, on one hand, wanting to halt further development, which is kind of what I would like to do. But on the other hand, you know, I've taken advantage of that development also, right? But I moved out here because I really, really like it. I love the desert area, and I would like to do my part in preserving it. So in 2021, we had a community survey, as you all will recall. And we were asking residents, what is your number one priority? And so the 3 number one priorities were environment, second, dark skies, third, open space. Okay, so these were a very high up, like on top of the list, and then nothing much following, and then came other issues. Okay, so it was very clear that these three were exactly what I am about also. Okay, so these were my interests, and I was thinking, marvelous, everybody else thinks so too. Okay, or most people at least. So as I was becoming involved with GCCI, with that community survey, I was thinking, what can we do? How can we become involved? I have become involved with this awful Rivian development thing. I did not want this to happen. Industrial development north of the US 60 is not something I support, and I just can't see that. So I will do my very best to try to avoid that. Okay, so we braved that situation. Rivian is not going to happen in Gold Canyon, so that's a good thing, but other development might. And so the goals of our committee, the Conservation Committee at GCCI, are to oversee all kinds of development as it happens here. You know that there are plans out there. You've heard the Superstition Vistas plan, of which Gold Canyon is part. Right now, we are kind of flying under the radar, most probably also because of water issues, right? So nothing much has happened, but we are facing that it will at one point, and then we need to be prepared. So I've always, once I got to know the folks at GCCI, I thought, okay, I'm going to join that organization because they have this fact-based and solution-centered approach that I really appreciate. It's not political. It's just, okay, so what can we do to keep the character of Gold Canyon the way it is? So this is where my research skills came in handy again, right? So I got together with Charlie Goff at the time, who is the director of SALT. Everybody knows that. He was the director of the Conservation Committee here. He has since stepped back to concentrate on SALT again, so I took over his position. Learned a lot about conservation. Met people like Bobby, like people who are a lot more knowledgeable in that particular field. And one thing I've found is that there weren't enough resources for me that are publicly available that are focused on our particular area. You have a lot of resources like the entire area, Sonora Desert and so on, but not what is exactly here. So one of the things that we've been doing is just gather information of who are we and what is our vision for the future of Gold Canyon. And so we are in the process of writing this community plan, of which I wrote the environmental chapter, which is why I love this type of information, because we need it in order to convince the county that we should not have just unfettered residential development here in this area. So we are trying to curb it, and there are ways of doing that. So we've talked with the county. Part of it is our Dark Skies effort. We actually did now in December formally apply for Dark Sky status, and some of you have followed what we're doing. It's not just for Gold Canyon, it's actually for a larger area of Eastern Pinal County, of which obviously we are part. If that doesn't work for whatever reason, we're still going to pursue it for Gold Canyon. Okay, so but right now we think, the more the better. So the larger the area is, the more people are going to benefit from it. So this is going on. The community plan is going on, and we are asking people to give input. Okay, so if you are interested, if you like looking through documents, and if you are a good editor, please let us know, because we can sit down and we can send you a copy and get your input so that you see what we're doing. Let's see, goals, key projects. Okay, already said the Dark Skies, the community plan. What else should we mention? What else are we doing? Help me out. Are we doing anything else? What's that? The water, sorry, yes, of course, okay. So we have Nick Richards here, who is actually spearheading the whole thing. One topic that we have tackled is get together with Arizona Water Company, and you've all seen the invitations to meetings about our conservation program, water more precious than gold, it's called. Okay, so it teaches us and raises awareness of how to conserve water, because this is going to be an issue at one point. And I do know, of course, that why should we conserve water when agriculture is the highest consumer of water in the state? Okay, so of course we hear this argument, but at one point we have to get started. And so conservation is one way that we can tackle ourselves. There are other ways. We have a workshop coming up. It's a workshop/meeting where we invited a hydrologist to talk about the larger issues and how, you know, where is our water coming from? How can we become more resilient? We've all heard those horror stories of what's it called, Rio Verde community that are losing their access to water. This is absolutely horrible, right? So obviously we want to be resilient to any type of situation like that.
Isabel, I'll pass the
Thank you.
workshop around that's coming this Friday. You could use your iPhone and just take a picture of it, and then you'll have it for your record to join us this Friday right here in Spokane.
Isabel, you might want to mention that there is a survey that's online.
Yes, there's a Facebook survey. Actually, it's accessible through Facebook and through the website itself. And forgive me that I don't have the website address in my head. It's
Water precious than gold.
.org, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, water more precious than gold, one big word, okay, .org. You'll find the survey there. If you're on Facebook, you have seen the invitations to take it. You know, the survey is just a raise awareness of the issue kind of technique. Okay, so it's not trying to figure out, you know, what individual people are doing. It's just asking questions to point us to what we can do, right? Okay, so that's that, and there was a question.
For people who are not like on Facebook, I am, and I
Mhm.
actually saw an exchange recently
Mhm.
with a lady brought up. Is there any way we can make our community more publicly aware of this? Of the more precious.
Well, we've had articles in the independent newspaper.
Okay,
We've had articles in the Superstition Living magazine. What else?
yeah, I don't, I'm newer to the area, so I was
Yeah.
just curious.
But thank you.
Or even
It's a good
that
point.
lady on Facebook a few days ago, and I saw you commented, I'm like, are people not aware of this?
What would you suggest?
I don't.
Oh, okay.
That's, you know.
But it's a good point. Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I can
HOAs.
get that, find out better ways to.
We are sending this here workshop. I've sent it to the HOA community managers to send it out.
Okay, good.
Community.
I don't think-
email.
I don't think we've gotten it through our
It
HOA.
would have been just on Friday, so I don't.
Oh, I
think
see.
They were sending, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Question.
So Terry, you were asking suggestions.
Yes.
I know you said you sent it to the managers of the HOAs, but for example, Gold Canyon News, we have a newsletter that comes out.
Right.
So if it could go to the community or communication person for each HOA.
We need to,
So that it gets
we need to
printed.
know that information. So if you could send that to us, we can add it to our
I'm not
list.
for Gold Canyon.
Yes. I just thought it was bizarre, reading some of these comments on Facebook, I'm like, wow, people are really not
Oh, yeah,
aware.
yeah, and social
Well, there is-
media are, you know,
And some
have their
people-
challenges that we need to tackle.
I don't know of any, but are there any radio stations in the area? that
There is.
you Get on.
There is.
Get on.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, it's actually a neighbor of mine, so we like 3 houses down. So yeah, that's a very good idea. Thank you for bringing that up. We have talked about this before and then did not pursue it. Okay. All right. Any more questions, everybody?
You also have the independent newspaper.
Well, we
Yeah.
submit articles and they're pretty good about publishing this for us, so.
We
In fact-
actually have a communications committee in GCCI that identifies all the ways we attempt to find out all the different ways that the community receives its information. And so we have covered as much as we have been able to identify. But if anybody has any suggestions, send them to Dave Power so that we can be sure that they're included. Because we've actually worked with Scott Kramer, who is the owner and manager of the community public radio station here in Gold Canyon.
Yeah, okay, great. June just reminded me that we also have a presence at the Market on the Spot through Gold Canyon Strong. We usually have tables there and we talk to people, like, hey, do you know about dark skies here? Or do you not know about the water issue here, right? And then we have materials that we give to them. Some just walk by, they don't want anything to do with that.
Do we have that listed in the Pinal County weekly newsletter? Did the police put it in there?
Oh, gee, I forgot to do that.
You know that, yes, absolutely, yeah. Mhm.
That gets to 500 more people.
Yeah.
But one of the issues we have as a group, and it's good to see everybody here, is the communication so everybody gets it, because there's no one saying this newspapers, Facebook. We found social media is really brought in a lot of people because a lot of folks are on, but it's not universal.
Right,
The
exactly.
HOA that you brought up in ours, it's goes to the community manager. Their job is something else. It needs to go to the board or to the newsletter people or whatever.
So we need that information. And also, if any of you or anybody online have communication skills, we're always looking for people, because obviously we're missing the beat in a couple of places, but we can always use the help. So
Yeah, all kinds of things like webmaster would be great if anybody has that type of skill, right? Because poor Dave here does it all by himself. Okay, so and it's a lot of work. So if you divide and conquer, it's a lot easier.
Okay.
Anything else? Yes.
I think that for me, who do you believe on the water? You've got some development going in and they have a piece of paper
Sure.
that says, I've got water for 100 years, guaranteed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then you
Which is
turn
why-
around and Lake Mead goes down and the curtailment starts in.
Absolutely, we're familiar with that issue, if you go to our website, we have an excellent little tutorial on present water issues on there, okay, so we found that, we thought, okay, so we should know about this, because our water company feeds us information, and the county feeds us information, and we're sometimes not so sure whether that information is like really, really reliable.
but that would be an excellent question to ask the hydrologist
Yes.
that's going to be at Friday's meeting.
Yes.
Yes,
I have, I'm on the board at Mountain Forge, and I've gone through our governing documents, and it alludes to the ability for someone on the board to represent the board on outside agencies. It's really loose. It's really vague. I don't know if it's ever been done. But what I'm thinking is, acting globally is great.
Mhm.
Wanting a global thing is great, but what can an individual HOA do? How can we make it part of that HOA's business case? Because it's not written in there now, is to compute that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because we actually have this year, one of our goals is the piece around letting the community know about JCC&I and how can we more effectively, so we have a plan where each month we're going to visit an HOA community meeting. So we're starting with Mountain Brook this week, and that's where we're gonna hand out the flyers on the workshop. And then I like what you're saying, get the board member who can be on
Right.
as a representation. That is the goal, to get someone from each of the HOA that would be here. And then they could take the information back to the board, because people change
Right.
in the board all the time, and it's difficult, other than through the community manager, to know who that touch point
Yeah,
is.
I mean, Jerry's right, the community manager is just a community manager.
Right.
He's not touching any of the board members or any of that
Right,
sort of stuff.
change. Mhm.
And I think, in this community, when you got so much of the community that evaporates in the summer.
Yeah.
What do you got left? So, not that that's a primary market, but it might be primary. Might be one of our target
Yeah, absolutely right, yeah.
We are open, for board members, we're open to anybody to come that wants to approach us and be on board. We're welcome to have people on.
Terry has done a great outreach job with the HOAs. Yes, Roberto.
Yes, just wanted to underscore that Arizona's groundwater code has active management areas designated for water. And Isabelle is very interested in getting our community's interests reflected in the Canal AMA that's headed up by one of our Canal County Board of Supervisors. And so that will have a direct impact on how they perceive the 100 water availability certification process. So it's something that we are working on to make sure those active management areas, and I believe there's 3 of them in the state of Arizona. One being 3 or 5. One of them is Canal County is one of the more critically strategically located ones.
However, we are not in the Canal Act.
We are not.
We're in the Phoenix.
Correct, but
Yeah.
we do have a member of our county board of supervisors who's responsible for that. And after all, they're responsible to residents who dare to step up and express their concerns.
And he made a presentation at one of our community meetings last year. And that recording is on our website if you care to go back and look at it. All right, it's getting close to 10 o'clock, so I want to respect your Saturday mornings. Jerry, I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk. Isabelle mentioned the community plan. If you want to briefly talk about where we're at with that and what you're heading up that effort for us, so.
Great, thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah, the community plan, if you've seen or heard about general plans, like Apache Junction's got one, Canal has a comprehensive plan. And it's done every 10 years or so. And what it is, it's kind of soup to nuts from utilities to growth, conservation, parks. It's kind of everything you think in municipal government, all the portfolio. So what we've done is we've taken the study that we did, and I'm in transportation. And so we've written a chapter on where we are and where we want to go. Isabelle's written a chapter on conservation and so on. And that's come a long ways. It's got a lot of good information. It's tried to take a community view and put it out in public. So that's the long-term plan, is to have later on this year, is to have it written down and everybody say, yeah, I can buy into that. So where we are right now is we've got some more information from ASU. We've got another student working on some graphics, and so we can get some maps. And we are working with a county, because if we do like a paper plan, and we just we read it and we say it's great, unless it's put in the legislation or it's put into their plan, it's not really going to be functional. So that's the next effort, is to work with them in the Arizona state land to give some teeth to it. So that's what was mentioned before. We've got some editors, we're divided that up, and it'll probably, say it's going to be 80 pages or something like that. That's a lot of work. So that's where we are right now, and we're at the front end of that.
I had offered my daughter's services for graphic. I did try to reach out. I don't know if you ever got my email to help out with such things. She does graphics and everything. She is volunteered to help out.
And her name is
ANN Samuelson, SAMUELSON.
Okay.
And I've spoken with her. She's on board. She lives in Philadelphia, but she does her work remotely. And she's
okay.
phenomenal in her field.
Did we pass around the membership or attendees?
Out front is a
okay,
list.
yeah.
I think I gave.
I do have that information. Yes, yes, and
she-
yes.
Okay, and your name?
Laura, same last name.
Great, okay. So that's about it for now. We're in the beginning of editing stages.
Okay.
But again, if anybody here, we're not trying to do it all internal. We want to get as much input from the community as possible. So if you've got an interest in that kind of thing, let us know, and because we're in the state, like you said, it's broken up to what, 8 or 10 chapters, and we've got drafts of most of that so far. And all we're trying to do now is we need to have someone look it over, do some edits on it and get some more ideas that might fit into those chapters. So if you've got any interest in conservation, traffic, parks and rec, any of the issues that we have around here, just let us know.
And next time, bring a friend.
Can I comment on that? Actually,
Sure.
These issues that you guys have done a tremendous amount of work. This is only my second meeting here, so thank you. And the 3 top things that Isabelle mentioned, people are, need to be informed about that, of course, but I'll tell you, the reason I showed up at this meeting is because June emailed me and asked me personally, and I know June.
Right.
So, the power of relationship is sometimes even, tell your neighbors.
Okay,
hey,
like Terry said, bring a friend.
Right. And the other comment I will tell you, just from having heard from some of my neighbors, they're like, oh yeah, those are great issues and we definitely want. But, and I emailed Jerry about this, okay, for example, because we're not incorporated, RAD, which is now Waste Connections of Arizona, just sort of raises their prices, doesn't notify anybody. This is the trash removal. Doesn't notify anybody, doesn't just, and it's this way in one area of Gold Canyon and another. So I would just, on the back burner, if those are sort of grassroots issues that I hear from my neighbors, that's just one example. It's like it went from, and I told Jerry this, it went from like 7, it used to be originally when it was RAD 38 or something a quarter, then it went to 70, then it went to 85. Then it went in the past year to 95, and then the last bill I got was 110. So I quit them. I went to once a week with Waste Management. They were very friendly on the phone. They were very, much more than Waste Connections, I'll tell you. But at any rate, so these are some of the issues. If you want people to get involved in this committee, yes, we need to look at these big issues, absolutely. But also there needs to be a caring about some of these smaller, pragmatic, grassroots stuff, like how does this affect me personally? So that's just my 2 cents. But, and so maybe on the back burner in the future, we could look at why can't we, some HOAs have contracts, I know, in Gold Canyon with, I guess. Some of the waste. Okay, with
We get a
RAD.
reduced rate, we get a monthly bulk
Yeah.
pickup.
But see, for
cost.
every HOA to do that, why can't we, as Gold Canyon community, why can't we explore?
Because we're unincorporated. We are not an official.
So
entity.
they won't
We
contract with Gold Canyon community? Just because we're not incorporated?
That's probably gonna take a little bit more of education and working,
Yes.
because our HOA, for instance, at Mountain Brook, can't define what you're gonna get for cable or trash. It's
Right.
outside the bylaws. So you have to have a community effort to do it, and that's a good suggestion. One thing we are doing, I think, for our track is we're working aggressively on the sewer rate case, which
Right,
will be going on, and we're making excellent progress.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna report out till next month when it's decided,
right.
but that worked out because we put some research eyes on it. We're gonna do good things for the homeowners. So
Yeah, and-
and those are things where
Yeah,
directionally,
exactly.
I know Adobe started on trash before, because it is a common issue. There's no quick solution, though. I
Yeah.
think maybe we should have a chapter on that in future.
Well,
In the
for one-
future,
For
just,
one thing,
you know.
we recently had a discussion with the county on this issue. And the county said they can't even do anything about it. So, and our governing body is the county.
But I think you bring up an excellent point, because there's thoughts out there, right? Oh, this should be done.
Right,
And the simplistic of the thought is there, but idea is good.
right.
But when you peel back the onion and really look at the process and you need 100% of the community to agree, who's
Right.
gonna do it, all those kinds of
Right.
logistics. That's the education by bringing neighbors here that they can learn, and that may simmer down some of the hotness out there and more, let's get involved and create a solution.
Yeah, and I think if people
Yeah.
thought that, whether it's trash
Right,
or
just don't
sewers,
understand,
whatever it is, whether it's any of those issues, you know, okay, so this is something that, you know, is grassroots, the community.
Sure.
Whether we're incorporated or not, shouldn't have really anything to do with it, but we as a community, just like, you know, the dark lights, the, you know, the conservation, et cetera. We as a community are moving forward in that area.
Well,
That's all.
we're always open as
Excellent.
issues come up like that.
Yes.
If there's enough input,
Okay.
we can set up a subcommittee to start looking into that.
Yeah.
So,
Moving forward to connect
Okay.
with you and whatever.
Roberto, you had something?
And that's been at the basis of the origins of GCCI. We worked from the approach of doing a community needs assessment. And that led to our survey. And I think it underscores the need for possibly in our newsletter to have a line at the bottom identifying a community need
That's a
that
great idea.
affects you.
Yes, so
That's
that.
a great idea.
I want to go backwards on everybody here, you know? Because it sounds like we got a trash problem, let's have it covered. And if we had an internet issue, why don't we decide on that too? Because people complain about MediaCom versus Centrelink versus Starlink. Or what about our phones that should we use AT&T or Verizon or anything? That's the way the market works. You got a market out here for people who are providing a service, and you did exactly what you should do in a market economy. The prices too high, you look for an alternative, you go get it. So why don't make everybody do that? This is what choice is about,
Right.
and I think
That's-
the easy solution is let's get somebody in charge to do this. We don't trust the government anyway. Why would we do that?
Well, that's-
So I mean, these are there are problems that are common that the solution might be in the market, and I don't think, I think we're pushing in the direction here that somebody ought to get control of this and make that bad company do something different. Yeah, form another company. And that's the way this works.
Well,
Well-
like you, just your testimonial, that you went to this other company and you put that out,
Right.
other people will follow, right? That's probably what I think is.
Well, I
Yeah,
understand what you're saying, but I guess I'm not talking about Big Brother kind of solutions.
It's like we're gonna put
But-
together.
Well, No, we're not making anybody do anything. We're saying that, you know, whether I'm an individual calling another company. Or whether we as a community are saying, you know, this isn't right. This isn't right. This is, you know, your, whatever you want to call it, price gouging, whether it's sewer, water, trash, whatever it is. You know, I mean, do you think it's okay for a company to do that?
Yes, because you can walk away from it and you have alternatives.
Okay, one
Yes,
thing,
But
the
in
system
some,
works.
okay, we don't want to get off on a
okay,
tangent.
one thing we can do, I noticed, I've got
Because
Ray,
sometimes
okay.
there are.
and they still have the fuel surcharge. Okay, fuel prices have gone down.
Right.
When is that gonna come off?
Exactly, exactly. And
So-
that's what I
And
asked.
that's, but that's what we as their customers need to contact them and ask them that question.
Dave, what about the fact that, I mean, let's say that we represent the community, just saying. And our next guest speaker is the guys at the trash company. And you know, in other words, to Ron's point, let these people compete. And I've been in situations where I brought vendors in and each vendor gets to make the presentation in front of the community. We're the customers. So vendor A comes in, he talks about his waste, he leaves and he sees vendor B out there. And then he comes in and then we just smile.
Yeah,
And then we
exactly.
go for there. So
Exactly. I think that's great.
so we're getting a lot of good information.
Good-
Bobby's
point.
presentation is great, all of them.
Yeah.
great. But maybe we do a little meat and potatoes type of thing next
Good point.
week.
Good point.
We tried that at MDV, we got always.
Please connect.
The old grant. Yeah, competitor didn't want to.
Well, that speaks for them.
To call waste management, the big golf spots or and see if they'll, you know, in the future, when you guys say, I would be glad to call them and say, we'd like you to present, blah, 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 blah. You know.
Be the trash one.
Yeah.
We could.
You for stepping and say, hey, I will take some action. I have an idea on how to doing that.
Why don't you, what,
I need to hear from the committee when that would be.
go ahead and reach out to them and see if they'd be willing to do that. And then we do have some,
I'm sorry.
yeah, we do have someone scheduled for next month, but you know, we can work it into our monthly meetings. Yeah.
Because basically what you were saying is what AJ, as a city, I understand, but that's what they did. They took bids. I know, but we can hear them.
Okay, I guess.
Yeah,
we'll get back to
okay.
the agenda.
All right, so I think we're pretty much done unless there are any other
There's
questions.
a couple other.
Oh,
quick
I'm
things
sorry.
I think it's important on the communication front. So one,
Oh,
I
yeah.
talked a bit about before, and we know that for GCC and I, like the best kept secret in Gold Canyon, right? All the great work. So one of the things that we're initiating in 2023 is monthly, we'll be joining each of the HOA meetings. Where we could use your help is when we come to your neighborhood, talk it up with your neighbors, because in the newsletters, email, all those things are great, but you said it best, it's word of mouth and saying, hey, I got a lot of value out of it. So we're starting off with Mountain Brook in January. And then we'll be going to each of the HOAs over the course of the year, because it takes time to talk about GCC and I, ask for membership, ask for volunteers, and steps going forward. The other thing we initiated, they will send out our website and also the water conservation Facebook page for Precious and Gold in the newsletter. But Rochelle also set up for us a Facebook page for GCC9. So we'll have that link in there. Michelle, I don't know if you want to, if we just started that.
Oh, yeah, it hasn't even been published yet. Well, I think just board members, we'll talk about that at our board meeting, but look for that.
For that
Another
meeting
way
as
to
well
share
too.
information.
Great.
How many HOAs are there?
There's 25 sizable ones that are out there, so there is a ton of HOA. So we have it all mapped out over the year. And we have to be cognitive of winter visitors, right? So we've got a bulk up in the spring and then a bulk in the fall. But love your ideas of continued ways that we can outreach to the community. And I'm gonna take that for next. Who's doing the newsletter? I know on some of them, but it's hard, people change, right? So getting that relationship with the community manager to try to disseminate the information. Good.
Anything else?
Can I
Terry?
do a really brief one?
Sure.
On January 11th, that's Wednesday, the Peralta Regional Park grand opening is happening. So everyone is invited to go out there if you want to see this place, you want to hear about it. It's at 10 a.m. to noon on Wednesday, January 11th. There's supposed to be a quorum of Pinal County supervisors out there. Hopefully they'll be in attendance, so you get the chance to meet the people that made this happen.
That's strange because they have a scheduled board meeting.
Really?
No, not on the 11th. It skipped to the 11th.
Oh,
It's
it
on
skipped
the-
it?
It's on
Okay.
the 18th.
Oh, okay.
And then related to that, next board meeting here, our guest speaker is gonna be Kent Taylor from Pinal County to speak about the regional park. And I know there's lots of questions out there about, you know, the details of the park. Actually, you can go to their website and see that, but then people have concerns about what kind of people are gonna be out there. It's gonna alleviate the unapproved camping out there and all that. So our next board meeting, he'll be here to talk about. He's already accepted that. There's gonna be we're planning a dark sky event out there. They wanted to have the opening and let the park kind of figure itself out for a while, but in March or April, we're gonna have a dark sky event. And astronomy clubs, we're gonna get the local astronomy clubs out there with their telescopes. Hopefully we'll get good weather and everything. So that people that come out for that event can also look at the stars and stuff. We do it when the phase of the moon is small, because most people like to look at the moon, but you don't want it to block out everything else. So anyway, And then paid commercial announcement, Dale's garbage service will be starting next week. Brought lemons, if anyone wants lemons free.
Such a deal.
So if you want lemons, don't borrow a bunch of bags. They were too tired of leaving the door.
As far as the regional park, the county manager mentioned at the last supervisor meeting that they have funding for paving for Alta Trail Road all the way to the trail.
Wow.
That should happen in 24, 25.
It's a chip, I think it's a chip sealing. Right? I don't think it's an asphalt.
I don't know.
Anyways, if you want to see a very short video on the park,
Yes.
at the last supervisor meeting. So you just Google Pinal County Supervisor Meeting videos. And about an hour into it, Jeff Surtee narrated about a 4-minute video of the park.
I have a snippet of that. I can send you the link.
Yeah, that's.
Just his art. Right, so I posted it out on Facebook pages and the visitor center Facebook page. So, yeah, it's just him talking. He does a really good job of talking about it. You could tell his excitement in his voice about it.
Yeah.
So I'll send it.
We'll
to you.
put that in the
Newsletter.
announcement of this meeting. Yeah.
One thing, when we were at the Board of Supervisors about a year ago, we asked that $7 fee be waived for the first year. I don't know if they're gonna do that or not. Should maybe.
We won't include that, but we'll ask.
But enforcement,
Well, I guess it's good, yeah.
you know,
Anyway.
Well, go to the ribbon cutting ceremony and ask that question.
Well, because there'll be bail on for about parks and so forth as well.
Yeah.
So I think those are great questions to bring. So bring a friend next time, and when you get the email with a follow-up and all these great links, send it to whoever you know in your email distribution. And that's how we can get the word out about this great work being done here that you're part of.
Okay, so without further ado, we'll adjourn this community meeting. Thank you all for coming. Take some lemons, And there's also some treats left, so feel free to take those. Oh, June, who sponsored the treats?
I do. It's just, you know, it's so good. It's not awesome. But for example, it's.
Aren't Goldman sounding?
Sure. So. Yeah. Okay. And it would check all the stuff, or they have it.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted Okay, oh, you don't have to remember off. So basically, I. Let's check.
Oh, okay. I'm very sure to mention it.
Next one too.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
I'm gonna get to quantity involved. Some of these meetings were very.
Yeah.
I got involved. Well, I just didn't. That's all the meetings. They had to rip it.
Probably. Okay.
So. Yeah. City is last year. So this year. You'll be seeing change. So that she came by. You know what I want to get. June. Oh, it's just changed. It's perfect. So we'll see how we do now. So next time we recognize people from there. Yeah, well, I'm a little bit emotional. I'm not really very, yeah. Hey, people. First one, so if it's. No, well.
Yeah, media process to everybody in that area, you know, like.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, last thing another. And just saying, this is what it falls to. They do it on paper. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, garbage. It's all. Yeah, but I think that it's. It's so hard because we don't have, there's no one simple place that people can get this information. It's not just attention. Information so diverse. So I agree. There's so many. I'm on. Yeah, but there's a lot too. Yeah, it gives these people that. Yeah, that's. That's a good idea. That's the goal. That's the goal. Anyways, Dave, nice meeting you.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Dave. Start with. Citizen Education Committee is starting to funnel in. I'm wondering, since the meeting ran late, if we flip and start with the SWOT analysis and I go. I had 18.
Yeah, we could do that if his committee meeting or people are here,
Yes.
so. Okay, yeah, let's do that.
Weaknesses. Okay, so let's start it right now.
Okay,
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. If you're okay with it.
yeah, let's start at 10:30. Because people are still doing their thing here.
So for you all, we're on it.
If you got yours, we'll use yours, so I don't have to drag mine in.
Remember if there was one.
You want to just use the whiteboard?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I couldn't remember if there was.
And we can take,
Yeah,
and we can take a picture of it.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, let's do
Okay,
that.
great.
I recorded the whole meeting, the other first meeting. It's okay, to record this one.
I'm recording it here too.
Oh, good, good. Yeah. It only, we only has about.
Oh, you're recording it there.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna start our board meeting in about 4 minutes. Yeah. We're gonna do that. Yep. Okay.
Get the board, the dry erase board.
And if you're not working today.
Yes.
We're gonna do SWAT right now. People, took a little longer in the meeting. Yeah, the board meeting's open to anybody at all
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
So if you're dialing or you.
You.
Oh, I got you. Oh,
No.
Not at all.
You have an action item. You have an action item.
What? Google Drive. Well, Like hold it. Well, I've been.
If I can find it.
And so.
So.
I just for you.